Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am here today to talk about something truly insidious, something that makes the phrase up is down and left is right feel like it is an understatement. We are going to deconstruct how the delusion from one man, fed by right-wing media, became the justification for an unprecedented, dangerous crackdown on dissent. Imagine a president asking out loud if the television he is watching is showing a completely different reality than what is actually happening, and then building policy off that illusion. That is exactly what Donald Trump did. He admitted he was not sure if he was being lied to about Portland, yet instead of correcting course, he doubled down, describing a peaceful city as a war zone and even authorized troop deployment. This is not just political theater, it is dangerous. When the most powerful man in the country cannot tell the difference between propaganda and reality, democratic norms crumble. Decisions made on false premises risk real-world harm, troops on city streets, crackdowns on dissent, and a government run on gaslighting instead of facts. We are about to break all of this down, but first, if you want to be part of this conversation, make sure you are subscribed and share your thoughts in the comments below. It is the best way to support independent coverage like this. Now, let us set the stage for how the warped perception from Trump turned Portland into his latest political fantasy. Here is where it gets truly strange. What happens when the manipulation is not just for the public, but for the man himself? What happens when Donald Trump, the one who always accuses others of being dishonest, begins to believe his own fake news? We saw a very extraordinary and honestly a very scary look at this happening when it came to the city of Portland, Oregon. Our story begins with a must-read article. Seriously, you need to read this article. It will be in the details of this video. It is a truly shocking moment of accidental honesty from Donald Trump. In a phone interview with an NBC News White House reporter named Yamiche Alcindor, Trump made a comment that should have stopped everything. It was a quote so revelatory, it shows the very core of his fractured relationship with reality. He spoke with the governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek, and after that conversation, he said these words: "Well, wait a minute. Am I watching things on television that are different from what is happening? My people tell me different." Let that sink in for a moment. The President of the United States, the supposed leader of the free world, publicly questioned if what he was seeing on television and what his own helpers were telling him about an American city was in fact different from reality. This was a short, quick moment of lucidity, a crack in the armor of his manufactured confidence. What was he watching? It was a video segment from Fox News that was deceptively edited. It was a piece of propaganda that showed Portland as a burning, war-torn place of suffering. It had scenes that were years old from events that were not related. One scene showed a man being tear-gassed, another showed a burning fountain base from the larger Black Lives Matter protests of 2020. But Trump fell for it. He took it all in, believed it completely, and ran with it. He went on a rampage describing Portland as unbelievable, a city of destruction, saying this has been going on for years. He claimed they are literally attacking and there are fires all over the place that looks like terrible. He described paid terrorists and paid agitators throwing smoke bombs into stores, and he vowed to wipe them out. He repeated these false statements days later with Vice President J.D. Vance nodding along. He described shops boarded up with plywood because they knew their businesses would be burned down every night for years. The reality? Portland at the time was mostly calm. Besides a small nightly protest outside an ICE facility, it was, by all accounts, idyllic. But for Trump, the image on his television, the story that was fed to him by his loyal followers, became the unshakable truth, and he was ready to act on it. The absurdity of this fabricated reality did not go unnoticed by the actual residents of Portland. They saw the announcement from Trump, and they responded in the best way they could, with humor and defiance. Imagine this: Donald Trump is on Truth Social, yelling about a war-ravaged Portland. He is threatening to send in all necessary troops and giving permission for full force. At the same time, the people of Portland are enjoying their peaceful weekend. They went on social media and flooded it with images that directly proved the fever dreams from Trump were wrong. One user shared a beautiful view of the Steel Bridge with cherry blossom trees in full bloom and captioned it, "Live look at the war-torn streets of Portland, Oregon." Another posted a picture of people enjoying a rose garden in the sunshine, writing, "Marauding hordes win their way through rows of roses," and hashtag war-ravaged Portland. Someone else posted pictures of a quiet city center, adding, "Look at this bombed-out destruction zone. Please stay away from hashtag Portland because you just will not be able to survive here." It was brilliant. It was sarcastic. It was a perfect example of how absurd the narrative from Trump truly was, and local officials were not holding back either. The mayor of Portland, Keith Wilson, released a statement saying the number of necessary troops is 0 in Portland and any other American city. The governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek, repeated this. She said she had been abundantly clear with Trump that the city and state could handle their own security. "There is no insurrection. There is no threat to national security," she wrote. Congresswoman Maxine Dexter, who represents the 3rd Congressional District of Oregon, also joined in. She shared peaceful scenes and gave a direct message to the potential forces from Trump. My message to the troops from Trump: you are not needed. You are not wanted. Other users even threw it back at him, posting images of the January 6th Capitol riot and asking, is this hashtag war-ravaged Portland? I forget. The message was clear. Donald Trump was not just wrong, he was completely wrong. His statements were so divorced from reality that they became a source of public joking. This was not just a case of wrong information, it was a look into a leadership team working on pure, simple fantasy. Yet they were ready to send in the military based on it. This highlights a dangerous precedent for the future of making military action and local protests normal, all based on a lie. But here's where the story takes an even darker, more chilling turn. What started as a manufactured crisis in Portland, a delusion fed by cable news and made bigger by a president who seemed unable to tell fact from fiction, quickly grew worse. It was not enough for Trump to just believe in a made-up war zone. He had to legitimize it. He had to institutionalize it. This brings us to what The Guardian reported on September 25th, 2025. The headline reads, Trump signs memo targeting domestic terrorism amid fears of crackdown on the left. The article states, Donald Trump issued a presidential memorandum on Thursday aimed at reining in what he has called a radical left-wing domestic terror network, but which seemed likely to meet fierce legal pushback from critics depicting it as a license for a broad crackdown on his political opponents. It continues, Trump suggested that George Soros, the billionaire Hungarian-born philanthropist who funds the Open Society Foundations, could be in his sights. He also identified Reid Hoffman, a billionaire venture capitalist, adding, I hear about him. Maybe it could be him. It could be a lot of people. And finally, Hina Shamsi of the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, said in a statement, after one of the most harrowing weeks for our First Amendment rights, the president is invoking political violence, which we all condemn, as an excuse to target nonprofits and activists with the false and stigmatizing label of domestic terrorism. This is a shameful and dangerous move. This is the punchline, folks. The final failure and absurdity of these policies, the lie of a war-ravaged Portland and paid terrorists, directly led to the creation of a presidential memo. It was aimed at what Agent Orange called a radical left-wing domestic terror network, but it was nothing less than a thinly veiled attempt to use the federal government against political opponents. Think about it, from a video segment on Fox News that was deceptively edited, to a president questioning what he was seeing, to then sending in troops, and finally to signing a memo that targets anarchists and agitators funded by wealthy people like George Soros and Reid Hoffman, all based on no real evidence at all. This is the definition of governing based on fiction. The memo gives agencies like the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Forces, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Treasury new orders to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle all stages of organized political dissent, and calling it domestic terrorism. And as the ACLU pointed out, these task forces already have a long history of wrongly targeting protesters and communities of color. This is not about safety, it is about stopping dissent. Stephen Miller, the powerful White House Deputy Chief of Staff, boldly called this plan historical and significant. He said, this is the first time in American history that there is an all-of-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism. This is the biggest waste of time and money, and an unforgivable affront to our civil liberties. It is a government that takes imaginary threats, blows them up into a national crisis, and then uses that crisis to justify a crackdown on its own citizens. This is the final danger of the up is down, left is right way of thinking. It moves from rhetorical flourish to actual oppressive policy. What we have witnessed with the administration from Trump is not just incompetence or a show for politics, it is a profound assault on our shared reality. It is a constant tiring battle against a government willing to manufacture its own truths, to sow distrust in our systems, and to demonize anyone who dares to challenge its story. From the ridiculous claims of a burning Portland to the terrifying implications of a memo designed to target political opponents, the pattern is clear. The tragedy is not just the chaos, but the chilling fact that in the world of Donald Trump, fabricated threats are always more powerful than inconvenient truths, and the price of that delusion is paid by every single one of us. It is a fundamental attack on shared reality. It turns governing into a dangerous farce, and it leaves us all to wonder what will be next to burn when the only fuel is fiction. Truth never rests. Defiance till the end.